All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today, including Hafthor Bjornsson thinking about making a serious competitive bodybuilding switch. So we'll talk about that later on. The first story that I've got for you guys today, Brazilians taking over the classic physique division, specifically Ramon Dino, aka Ramon Roca Curas. So this guy was the guy that took top 5 at the Olympia in classic physique. He's one of the best classic physique competitors coming out of Brazil right now. He's got a tremendous fan base. As you guys know, he had a little bit of a tiff with Ian Valliere earlier on in the year, but he is competing at the Arnold Classic in March. Now, again, he was just first call out top 5 at the Olympia. We know at the Arnold Classic in March, you're having pretty much that entire top 5 except for Chris Bumstead, Terrence Ruff and Rough Diesel, Breon Ainsley, Urs Kalsinski, and Ramon Roca Curas. Those are 2 through 5. Placings 2 through 5 at the Olympia will all be competing at the Arnold Classic. So, looking at this most recent physique update during his prep for the Arnold, I think he just looks amazing. Honestly, I think his structure is fantastic. The conditioning that he brought to the Olympia and to that recent Expo Pro show that he won, fantastic conditioning. And like I said, really the shape and the structure that he's got that you can clearly see on display in this story, very dangerous. And he's going to have a battle with Urs Kalsinski and Breon Ainsley, who are 3 and 4. Terrence Ruffin has got to be the favorite to win, considering he won the Arnold last year and was second at the Olympia. But those placings, Breon, who was 3rd, Urs, who was 4th, Ramon is going to be trying to move up. And could we possibly see Ramon Dino versus Rough Diesel in the 1 and 2 call out for classic physique at the Arnold Classic? And could this be the show where he really makes a big statement? Could he potentially win? Which would be massive momentum for him, especially having that rivalry with Ian Valliere, because the guy that just took second at the Olympia, Terrence Ruffin, was the winner of the Arnold. So would that position Ramon Dino, if he were able to win the Arnold, to be next year's runner-up at the Olympia with that kind of momentum behind him? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but he is a guy right now that I'm extremely impressed with in classic physique, and I'm really excited to see how he does at the Arnold Classic. He's definitely a guy that right now I think could be one of the more dangerous guys in that division in the near future, in the top 3 at the Olympia in that kind of conversation. Now, next up in the news, also in classic physique news, Chris Bumstead recently sharing a physique update and also sharing on his YouTube channel that he recently recovered from the virus that shall not be named. So that was something that set him back a little bit, which made this physique update to me all that much more impressive, because he said, when he was talking about actually having the virus, he said he had to really take a step back from training and really give his body a rest. So assuming that was a little bit of that time off was a little bit of size off as well and a little bit of progress off. But being as transparent as Chris has always been, he shares with us this physique update. He says, 3 months post-Olympia, weighing almost exactly the same as my stage weight, just a fair amount of muscle lost, referring to, I think, specifically the battle with the virus. He says, I forgot my scale in Orlando after the O, and I haven't weighed myself until last week. My current weight is 237 pounds. I've kept my diet on point so I didn't end up looking like crap while I was barely training, and to properly reverse diet so that my body was primed and ready for a good off-season. Now starting my off-season, my digestion/appetite is great, even though I can't taste. Body fat percentage is at a great spot to start adding mass, and my body feels rested and ready to grow. Plenty of aspects I can be better this year, and I'm excited to apply them. So, the reigning, defending Olympia champ, it's crazy to say this, but 3-time Olympia champ, going for his 4th title already this year, beginning his journey to the Olympia stage. And as always, I think we're all very appreciative that he's kind of an open book and very transparent and shares all this stuff with us. So I'm happy to see Chris is healthy and happy to see what he looks like on the beginning of his journey to number 4. And now, a word from our sponsors, the Arnold Sports Festival.
I think that every bodybuilder has something unique, especially the bodybuilders today. I mean, wow, they are big.
Now, the next story that I've got for you guys today, and this is really the big one, Hafthor Julius Bjornsson, world's strongest man, the mountain from Game of Thrones, recently said in an Instagram post that he has a little bit of an itch to compete in bodybuilding. He puts the caption on this latest post, "Should I try out bodybuilding after my boxing journey? Right now I'm reading Ronnie Coleman's book and I'm hooked. I love his story." So this isn't the first time we've heard a World's Strongest Man winner wants to switch over and compete in bodybuilding. Brian Shaw has hinted at this as well. And we also saw World's Strongest Man competitor Terry Holland actually competed in competitive bodybuilding, making a pretty significant transformation himself. So the question, I kind of want to answer this and give my opinion because I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. So the answer to that question, as a fan of Hafthor and as a fan of bodybuilding, I think the obvious answer is yes. It would be very entertaining to watch him do it. It would be very entertaining to watch that crossover between strongman and bodybuilding. Well, strongman to bodybuilding, since boxing was one of the big reasons why he downsized and leaned out as much as he had. So from an entertainment standpoint, yes, we would love to see that, I'm sure. It'd be very entertaining. It'd be fun to watch. And it's always cool to see those crossovers like we saw Larry Wheels. He's done crossovers for everything, and that's been very entertaining to watch as well. Now, that's a fan's perspective. If I were somebody close to Hafthor that cared about Hafthor like a really good friend, my advice would be, no, you don't need to. You have nothing to prove. Because one of the things, we can't really be hypocrites here, because one of the things that a lot of people were excited to see with Hafthor was a lot of the size and the weight that he lost in this transition from strongman, where he was 450 plus pounds as a strongman competitor, downsizing, getting leaner and healthier for this boxing fight. A lot of us have been talking about the health aspect of that and the health implications that come along with being a professional athlete in something like strongman. Carrying that much size, that much weight, that much pressure on the body and on the heart, it's unhealthy. So when we saw him getting leaner, having abs, carrying a lot less weight for this boxing match, we were happy to see that from a health standpoint, especially considering all the deaths that we saw in 2021 of bodybuilders. And a lot of it was heart related. So if I were a friend of Hafthor's and not necessarily a fan, I would say, look, you've got nothing to prove. This isn't worth the risk that it might potentially put on your health, on your heart. Because, you know, one thing is Hafthor's like 6'9". Just being that tall already, even if he weren't a strongman competitor, that is going to be extra stress on the heart because the blood has a further distance to pump on somebody with a frame that big. The strongman career was already a lot of stress on the heart, and probably, you know, the transformation that he's made has probably been stressful on his body because of the sheer amount of weight lost. So the extra stress, potentially, of having to prep for a bodybuilding show and take different kinds of gear, having to get a different type of lean. This isn't boxing lean. Having to dehydrate his body on a scale as large as his. I would say for someone his age with nothing left to prove, it's almost not even worth it. Yes, he might get a lot of views. It might be very entertaining to watch. But at the end of the day, is he going to turn pro? Probably not. We know that bodybuilding seems to be a shorter man sport. Probably not for a guy that's 7 foot tall. And a big reason for that is it's harder to proportionally fill out a bigger, longer frame like that. Evening out the arms with the upper body, the legs with the upper body. It's just a lot more of a balancing act when your limbs are longer like that. So typically you see shorter guys do the best in bodybuilding, and Hafthor being on the very extreme end of a tall guy, the likelihood that he would turn pro at nearly 7 feet tall is probably slim to none. Now, we've seen exceptions like AKA the Giant, Jamie Jahal, but I think realistically it would be very unlikely that he would turn pro. Would he do well at an NPC amateur level show? Probably. He's got a ton of muscle on his physique. That's certainly not the issue, and probably on an amateur level he would be able to win potentially a lot of the shows that he does, but on a national level, probably not so much. And even if somehow he did turn pro, realistically, he's not beating most of the pros out there. So the risk to reward, I think, for Hafthor would be very slim, unless it's just something that he would really like to, he would want to be like an Arnold Schwarzenegger type of guy, you know, a Larry Wheels type of guy, is like the modern version of Arnold, kind of trying all these different things and doing well at all these different things. Because now Thor isn't known for just being World's Strongest Man. He's World's Strongest Man. He's an actor. He's a boxer. He's the Mountain from Game of Thrones. He does all these different things, and maybe he wants to try to excel at something else because that's just his competitive personality, and maybe bodybuilding's the next thing he really wants to do. If he's that passionate about it, then yeah, but I think certainly the health aspect of this needs to be considered. And I'm curious to hear what you guys think on this. Would you like to see Hafthor do a bodybuilding show? Yes or no? Why or why not? Like I said, as a fan, for me, yes. If I were his friend and concerned about his health, I would say no. Could he do well? Probably. Could he turn pro? Probably not. And now the final story that I've got for you guys today, William Bonac, a former Arnold Classic champion, providing another physique update today at around 8 weeks out from the 2022 Arnold Classic. We're almost exactly 2 months from that show, the first weekend of March. William sharing this most muscular at around 2 months out. And like I said before, he would be potentially a defending champion had he been able to compete against Nick Walker. We still didn't get to see how that would have played out at the Arnold last year. So he never officially lost his title. So in a way, he's kind of the favorite to win this year because he is the returning champion that hasn't been beaten on the Arnold stage since then. And I think he's looking pretty good here. I think William probably has a chip on his shoulder. He probably is pretty upset about the fact that he had to miss last year's Arnold. And he probably, wants a little bit of redemption this year and come back and take his title, take what's his. And actually, that wasn't the last story. I did want to mention, so the show a week after the Arnold, the Boston Pro Show, I mentioned this briefly in a previous video, but I wanted to mention this again because I think this is going to become something like an Arnold Classic rematch. They're giving away a truck, which is a really big prize for a bodybuilding show outside of one of the big three, the New York Pro, the Olympia, or the Arnold. So they're giving away this really nice truck. It's a week after the Arnold. I think this show could end up being like the big Arnold rematch show because it's a week later. These guys are already in shape. There's a giant prize. So this is another show that we should be looking at as a potential really big Olympia qualifier because I think you're going to have a lot of that Arnold Classic lineup just stay in shape, stay in town, and go on over to Boston a week later and try to win that big prize. And there's a lot of international guys that are competing in the Arnold. They're going to be in that Arnold lineup from across the sea. So why not just stay in town another week, try to get an Olympia qualification in a truck somewhere else if they don't get it at the Arnold? I think that's going to end up being a really good show that we need to keep our eyes on. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Please give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. The thumbs up helps out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification icon. As always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.